What would be one word of advice you would have for an upcoming businessman, for a future businessman?
Knowledge. Knowledge. But if it's one word's very hard for that, but the word is knowledge. But you get knowledge through experience. One of the things people talk about is luck. And I do believe that people are lucky, and some people are luckier than others. I do believe that. But there's also an expression, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I can tell you 10 instances where I didn't quit when it was 1990, the world was coming down, the debt markets were to everybody, all of my friends and enemies were going bankrupt. I never did. And the times were actually just terrible. And even today, you look at times and you see what happens and you have to learn. But the word luck is very interesting. But if I didn't work really hard, I probably would not, almost definitely would not be here today. And unless you had me up as a man who at one point was successful, but let's see what a loser looks like. So you have to work hard, because it is true, you can develop luck through hard work.
Going against the tide is great if it works. Now, it doesn't always work, and you really have to be smart to go against the tide, because you're going against a lot of smart people. But when you get it right, you'll end up better, whether it's Microsoft or Google. I mean, so many people that have really hit big have gone against the tide. But you have to have great confidence in yourself. You have to be the right person. There are very few people that can pull it off. But when you pull it off, it's great. Same thing in real estate. You go against the tide. People are selling, you're buying, the tide changes.
There's an art to making money, and there's also an art to keeping money. We might speak here of financial intelligence, the ability to manage cash. How important is that ability, and how can it be developed?
Well, managing cash is very important. Managing your wealth is very important. And even myself, in the early 90s, I had some really difficult times. The real estate markets crashed. To be honest, I wasn't totally focused. I was having such a good time. It was coming in too easily. And I went back to work, and I did a great job. I've always said the greatest job I've ever done was from 1990 to 1994. That was the greatest. There were 4 years of hell. And other people went bankrupt, and you'll never hear from them again. And my company became bigger and bigger and stronger to a point where now I'm one of the largest privately held companies in New York, and it's been a real success story. And I believe the Guinness Book of World Records had me as the greatest personal financial comeback of all time. I don't know if that's an honor or not, because I don't view it as a comeback. I view it as just a steady stream of work. Some days are good, some days are bad. But the fact is that I have had a lot of fun, and I've had a good time doing what I'm doing.
But I will tell you that the happy people are the people, number one, the people with great families, people that have great relationships with their wives or husband, very, very important toward success. Because I don't consider success necessarily monetary, because I know the most successful people in the world, and many of these people are really miserable people, okay? No matter what, and perhaps I'm in that category, okay? But I'm pretty happy. At least I'm very content, I can tell you. But some of the most successful people in the world, I know like many of them. I don't know all, I guess, but I seem to know all. And they cross my path a lot. And they're not necessarily happy people. They're very wealthy people, but they're, in many cases, extremely unhappy. Now, with all of that, I don't want to talk you out of things, because we're talking about success. Most people think success is measured in the form of monetary success. It's not really. I mean, to me, a successful person who has a great family, who loves the family, loves the children, and the children love him or her, to me, that's a much more successful person than a person that's made $1 billion or $10 billion and is miserable and doesn't have a good family and nobody likes the person. And, you know, I've seen them. I think I've seen every type of person there is that God created, if you want to know the truth. And the people are the happiest are not necessarily the people who are the wealthiest, okay? But in terms of monetary success, it does make life easier. You don't have to worry about food and housing and education and sickness. Your doctors, you go to the best doctors, and hopefully that solves the problems. But it does make life easier.
You know, when people ask me about success, I've just started thinking about it over the last couple of years because I've seen a lot of it. You have to have an ability to handle pressure because no matter how successful you are, I have many, many friends and enemies, a lot of enemies too, I don't care, but they're smart. I have a lot of enemies, and I've watched people and I've seen it. And people that can handle pressure can be entrepreneurs, can be successful. Now, I have some friends that are really, really smart, but they can't handle pressure. In which case, they should work for somebody, do great, and have a good life. There's nothing wrong with it.
Your first book, The Art of the Deal, begins with a simple sentence that many people might find hard to understand. You say, "I don't do it for the money." Can you explain that?
Well, I do it because I love it. If I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it. I have bad days, I have good days, I have days somewhere in the middle. But the end result is I love what I'm doing, and I don't do it for the money. And I make money because probably I'm not doing it for the money. I do it, and I do it well. I'm the biggest developer in New York. I love building buildings. I have a lot of fun building buildings. The fact is, I do it for fun. I do it for game. I do it for sport. I happen to make a lot of money doing it. If I didn't enjoy it, if I didn't really love what I'm doing, I wouldn't be successful. I wouldn't be sitting with you today, and I wouldn't have Trump University.
And what's the implication of that for someone watching this who wants to create greater wealth? What's the message in that, do you think?
Well, the message is you have to love what you do. If you do it for the money alone, it's probably not going to work. I have friends where I tell them, get out of this business, which is a good business, and go into another business, which isn't as good a business, because they like the other business better. They'll do better in a less good business, so to speak, than they will in the better business because they like it.